Hi, happy Friday. I'm Angela Maldonado, a producer with Decibel, so I'm sorry if you're expecting Judy Maggio. Actually, I wanted to kind of come online to talk to you about one, this month it has been Decibel Listens. You may have noticed some posts going on. We've been out and about in Austin talking to nonprofits, but we also love to hear from people who live in Austin about how issues are affecting them personally, how they are affected, how it's affecting them in the community as a whole. And this interview was a few months in the making. Stephanie Gatica emailed or messaged us on our Facebook page wanting to talk to someone from Decibel about vitiligo awareness and kind of that there isn't a big support system in Austin. So we were talking, we met a couple times, and surprisingly enough, since you're watching this on Facebook, we're online, there is not a Facebook group or an online community for people in Austin to learn and find support for this, for living with the skin condition. So as someone like meeting you for the first time, what is vitiligo?
So vitiligo is an autoimmune disease, and basically in simplest terms, my skin stops producing the color that it's naturally, and it starts to lose pigment. So you start getting patches of white skin, and then eventually you either become all one color or you live with your patches. And I don't have any pigment, so I have to be very careful in the sun. And since they look different, I've kind of dealt with staring since I was about 3 years old, all the way up into my late 30s. Just people wondering what's wrong.
So in kind of looking into vitiligo, it is 1 to 2% of the population is affected by this skin condition. So that's millions, math. But the National Vitiligo Day is happening next Tuesday, the 25th, and the theme of it right now is the mental health impact, because it's a condition where you obviously wear it on your skin.
Yes.
But it is something that affects you, affects people in a more kind of internal way.
Yeah, definitely very personal. Just with society as a whole, even before we've gotten to the Instagram and the Facebook, you are your first impression, and people see your face and they see how you are, they see your body. And in Texas, it's super hot, so if you wear shorts, they see your legs. And for a very long time, mine were significantly 2 different colors. So I would have large patches of white skin on my face. I did wear makeup from literally 8 years old all the way up into my late 30s. So I would fully cover my face with Dermablend, and I would get up super early, put it on, let the powder set for 30 minutes, shake it off, and then go out about my day. And normal 8-year-olds don't do that, but it was something I had to do to be accepted. And people would stop. People still stop some days, and they'd ask me if I was in a house fire, if I was chemically burned, if I tattooed myself. I used to be funny and tell people that my parents were Hispanic and white and all the colors mixed together when I came out, just because I didn't know what to say at some point. Sometimes it's been very cruel. People have moved away from me thinking it's contagious. The misconception that I'm really sick and that if I touch them, they're gonna get it. And so I would always make sure I tap them in some way, shape, or form, just to level the playing field. But it's very hard because you always feel like someone's staring at you, no matter what. Even to this day, people will ask me if it's a birthmark or what happened. I mean, just random people will come up to me. I actually even had a lady follow me in the bathroom to let me know. She wanted to know what it was so bad, but she just didn't know how to ask me. I've had, of course, kids I don't bother because they're little. They just want to know. It's adults that just make you feel very uncomfortable, like you're not worthy of being in the presence of other people because you look that different. And that hurts. That really does hurt. Middle school was really hard. I did go to a Catholic school, so they were a little bit more easy about it. But during 3rd grade, people thought I had leprosy because we covered that chapter in the Bible, and because I looked so different, that's what I had all 3rd grade. And that's very hard because people don't want to play with you. I was extremely nervous to have a child because I didn't want him or her to go through that. Even though I knew how to support my child, I didn't want to do that. And I've been stopped by parents asking me, I don't know what to tell my child, like it's gonna be okay. And even though there are models now that have vitiligo, that doesn't help the little 2nd grader that's still getting picked on because he or she has it.
And like you said, you got it when you were 3, but it also pops up later in life. This is also Sarah Robertson. She's our VP of broadcast. Your mom has vitiligo, and then you kind of, it kind of spotted up. I guess on you, if that's the right thing to say, kind of later on in life.
Yeah.
So what happened with
So about 7 years ago, I realized I was getting some spots on my hands and my legs, and I had a really stressful period in my life. And what I figured out was the stress caused me to get vitiligo. Well, my mom had it my whole life. It popped up in her, I think, around age 12. So my experience is really different because every day of my life I saw my mom, and that was what she looked like. And it wasn't until I was probably 10 or so where I had a friend who asked me what happened to my mom's skin, and I literally didn't know what they were talking about. Like, I didn't understand, what do you mean different? It was just my mom. That was how she looked every day. And I think I had to ask her what they were talking about, or I figured out, I mean, obviously her skin is different tones. And so she said it was vitiligo, and it just I never even registered that she was different because I was so used to it. Right. So I've thought about that a lot. One of my kids has a disability, and so he has outwardly looks very different. And so I've often wondered if his sibling is going to have that same experience where his brother just looks the same to him. That's just how he looks. And people who look differently are different, and that's just normal part. And I think that's what I hope for others is people just look different, period. We are all different, and I think it's how you can learn about others' differences and then interact with them. I think that's what we can teach other people.
Exactly.
Well, it's one of those things where, I mean, especially now when people have like fibromyalgia awareness, different autoimmune diseases, that are, people are aware that there's a lot more that they can happen with your health that's just, not either an obvious disability or something that affects you. So something like this where it affects everybody, or it can affect anybody, and it's on your skin, that it gets so much
it's so
kind
visible.
of, it's so visible,
right
but it
there.
also creates such a response in people, or an assumption in people. So what are some of the things that people get wrong? And then to you, Sarah, like what are some of the things, or why do you think that people kind of, in particular, don't have the same approach like they would something like another autoimmune disease or something else that could affect anybody?
I think people are curious because it's so visible and everybody has skin and it's something they can relate to, because you often don't look sick or have another condition. They feel like they can approach somebody, and so they're more comfortable. But I think because it is pretty rare, there's just not a general awareness. When Michael Jackson, that's how I used to explain it, is the disease Michael Jackson had, and and then they remembered. That example is probably going out of vogue by now. Not many people might remember Michael Jackson having vitiligo, and there's room for new role models, I think, to show how they live and how they are and how they're just people.
Exactly. That was the big thing, is that they was like, it's the Michael Jackson disease, and it's Michael Jackson disease, and are you going to bleach your skin? I'm like, no, I'm not going to bleach my skin. So a lot of misconceptions were that I was sick. A lot of misconceptions were that it is contagious. It was caused by some weird diet, that I was either not eating something or eating something, that it was hereditary, that I was going to pass it down to my child, or the simple fact that I think the biggest misconception, and I mean this with a complete respect, is that people were like, well, you're one color, so you should be happy. And my thing was, I understand that, but it wasn't the color I was born. And no qualms about becoming a completely white person on the outside in any way, shape, or form, but that wasn't what was going to make me more comfortable, because I don't look like my family. I don't look like, and the assumption's been made that my daughter is not my daughter because her skin tone is so dark, and she looks exactly like my husband. But they're like, oh, so you're her mom. And they just give me that look because I don't look like my child. And so I think a lot of people made the assumption that, well, you're all white, so it's better now. I'm like, no, because I really can't go out in the sun. I really have no protection at all. And I've always been like very mislabeled. So when I come in and they're like, they'll look at me, they'll look at my last name, and they'll just kind of, okay, you know, and then they'll just kind of move on. And they won't say anything, but I see it. Same thing, even though the skin is very, very white. When I wear shorts, because it's Texas, it's hot, I'm not going to be covered up. I get that double stare real fast, and then they look up and they look down, and so you're albino? So like I'll get some of these just random questions. And I just kind of have to, no, it's vitiligo. Oh, okay, so you bleach your skin. No, it's just vitiligo. I'm just 2 different colors. And I think the moment for me was my daughter. We were at Galveston. I think she could have been more than 10. These kids were staring, and she just turned around and she's like, "It's called vitiligo. You can ask her a question if you like." And she was 10 years old, and I was just like, it made me cry that she had to do that, but I was so grateful that she knew what it was.
What an empowered young woman, though. And certainly you're a role model for her.
I was just like, oh, I taught you, like, you know what it is. So it was a very moving moment for me.
So then when it comes to family dynamics, then how did that change your approach as far as like when people asked you, and you being a parent and knowing that your daughter is also kind of an ambassador of sorts to like tell people, I mean, like what, how does it feel? How does that put you in the community? Like, do you feel like you're part of the community, or you're just kind of like, I'm always going to be like a sore thumb, kind of explaining things to people? Like, how do I feel like I fit in?
For me, I was told when in high school that I needed to work behind a desk because no one wanted to look at me. I was told when I made cheerleader that by a principal at that time, it was really weird because they would never get away with that now, is that, well, congratulations, but you need to cover up your legs with makeup before you got on the football field. So like I was just flat out told from administration and higher ups, teachers, that I just needed to cover up. Wow. And once that, that would never happen now. And I never told my mom because it was like, they're the teacher, they know better, but then I was like, it's hot. I'm not going to do that. And that, it was really out of necessity more than anything else. And then it was just like, this is who I am. And when my daughter got to kindergarten, I remember going to her kindergarten class. I was like, I'm her mom. My skin is just 2 different colors. That's all it is. Just so they understood. So I kind of took the lead on that. That way she didn't have to. Because I was worried that people weren't going to play with her. I was worried she was not going to have friends. And that didn't happen. But I was legitimately worried about that. And I grabbed the bull by the horns, like, I'm her mom, this is who I am, and all is wrong with me, it's not really anything wrong with me, I'm just 2 different colors. Yeah. That's it. And Serena's, she's okay, nothing's good, and they're like, okay, and that was it. And they followed her all the way up until middle school. And after that, she didn't really have to ever answer questions, and when she did, she was like, it's vitiligo. My mom's 2 different colors. Next question. And she would just move on. So I think I made a bigger deal of it than she needed to.
And then how did your family kind of approach vitiligo? Like after that first child asked you, did you find that situation popping up more, like people asking, or that was like
I definitely was more aware of people staring at my mom, or them asking questions, or asking me questions. And then when I got it as an adult, because I think if I had gotten it when I was younger, I probably would not have had the same reaction. I would have not have had as much confidence. As an adult, though, it is what it is. This is me. It's hot in Texas. I'm not going to wear pants. No, I do not get burned. But I'm also white, so you can't see it as much in me. So I don't get as much stares or questions. And it kind of fades as much sun or I get or don't get. So I definitely don't personally receive the stares, but I do in other ways from other family members who have differences. So it is an emotional load that you carry and you deal with, and sometimes you can feel like teaching somebody else, and other times you don't, and that's perfectly okay to have that attitude. Yeah. That's how I approach it.
There are some days where I'm like, I will sit there and explain it to at HEB, and there are some days where like, just not today, please. Yeah. Like I just can't, and it's just all about the approach as well.
And I think that's the main thing for people to know. Yeah. I think kids are an exception,
of course,
because they're curious and they're just curious. They don't have any intent or behind their questions. Adults, though, that's where I find it tricky, because you want them to treat the next adult better, and here's your opportunity to do that, and maybe you will, maybe you won't, depends on your personal attitude, but I think it's just acknowledging everybody is different. Like, that's what we just, as a culture, just need to get to. And then you can ask somebody questions if they feel it's appropriate. But a lot of times it's just not appropriate. Like, maybe ask it on the inside and then don't say anything out loud. Like,
kind of like in the land of Google, like if you see that what is, you know, you could easily, if you didn't feel comfortable approaching and asking, then maybe a quick search on your phone, like, and some
I will say, ironically, when I see somebody with vitiligo, I want to like go up to them
Yeah.
because they look like family. They look like somebody I know, and they look familiar to me, and I want to be like, you have vitiligo, but then I'm like, that's kind of odd, and maybe they won't receive that well. So.
I feel the exact same way. I just want to be like.
So you feel that way too?
Yes, and then I feel like I just get mad when people do that to me. So I don't want to do that to that person. So I've done that. I've had people stop me in the store though because their mom has it or their child is starting to have it and they just don't know where to go. And they just, you know, for my family, my grandparents were very religious. So in the early part of my life, they took me to church to try to figure out what was wrong. And if you pray hard enough and you do this and you do that, then it will go away. And that was their beliefs, and out of respect for them, I followed through with that. But we knew that was a medical condition. A lot of praying was not going to fix it. But there's a lot of people that's really wholeheartedly believe that. And when I encounter people, I'm just like, I can't tell you what to believe, but I can tell you really need to put sunscreen on. Like, I just kind of go to like the very basics of what it is. And I usually end up writing it down on a piece of paper and having them, if you can find a computer, just look it up, because it's just something that people are very shameful of. I mean, I remember a mother coming to me and telling me that she didn't want her daughter her daughter did not want her to come to the school because she didn't want to be made fun of. So then I talked to the daughter and the mother together, and I was just like, you see me every day on campus. You know, I'm someone's mom. You know, don't do that to your mom. Your friends are going to understand, and if they don't, they're not your friends. You know, just kind of breaking that barrier down to, you know, this is your mom. Yeah. If you love your mom, yeah, well, then everybody else will too. You know, so I try just to kind of, it is hard though, but I just try to remind people that people are people. Yeah. That's someone's mom, that's someone's sister. Just pay them the respect you would want someone to be paid.
So is it almost, I mean, obviously it's an awareness part, but then also that mental aspect for someone living with it can be just as big.
Oh yeah.
And either keep you from kind of reaching out, or keep you, like you mentioned, people with it may not want to leave their house, or so it's just kind of, what do you think the solution would be, or at least a help for someone wanting to kind of break out or connect to and not like kind of be pinned by any of this like mental struggle?
I've definitely, I did an infomercial for Dermablend, the makeup I used to wear in the late 2000s, and I met 3 people with vitiligo, and they never left their house. They filed for disability. This lady never left her house. When she came in, she was completely covered, and because she was afraid of the ridicule. And she'd ask me, I can't believe you're wearing short sleeves. I can't believe you're out. Like, you don't, and I was like, well, you know, I have to work. I have to, you know, I have to leave. And she couldn't understand that. And then I started sharing her the resources of covering her face with Dermablend, if that's what she felt comfortable with. And then slowly, you know, it's like, I can't tell you that it shouldn't take over your life, but you're a beautiful person. And, you know, you're missing out on this whole world, you know, and people are going to look once, and if you feel comfortable talking about it, then once you tell one person, it becomes easier to tell the second and the third, and then you keep on moving forward. So I was very lucky. I had a very strong grandmother and a very strong grandfather who were just like, this is it. There are people, he'd always remind me, there are people who cannot walk. There are people who cannot speak. There are people who have way far bigger things that impact their life. You can get past this. And so that's kind of what I did. I love to talk, so there's no way I was going to stand behind and not just be at home. But it was just learning that I can't go outside without sunscreen and learn. So I did adjust my life a little bit, but it was just kind of like I would keep all of that inside and just pretend like it didn't bother me. Sometimes it would be rough. I'd go home and cry, and sometimes be like, it was just, you learn how to cope with it. And I think that's the biggest thing that I would like to just pass on to little kids. It's not easy, but you're not alone and you're not by yourself. And as parents, you need those additional resources, because until you've been stared at to the point where it makes you feel uncomfortable, you can never relate to somebody and say, I know what you feel like. Actually, you don't. You know, imagine going outside with just, you know, the ugliest thing on and food all over you, and people are still gonna be like, okay, they're just messy, and they just move on, but you come out and you look different. Things are not symmetrical, and you physically, and then the stare isn't looking at you like you have food on you, it's looking at you like, what type of, excuse the expression, but what type of freak just walked in? And that's a very horrible feeling.
Well, there's a feeling of pity.
Yes.
That's what I
just like,
don't like.
oh my God, are you okay?
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm fine,
It's
I
an
have a bad
assumption
hair
that
day,
somebody
I'm
makes
fine.
about you. They don't even know you, and they're assuming things that are untrue or unfair.
Yes.
I was really.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was inspired a couple weeks ago. I heard this fashion photographer named Rick Giotti, probably saying that incorrectly, but he started an organization called Positive Exposure, because as a fashion photographer, he was told what's beautiful, and he encountered somebody who has they were an albino, and was just struck by how beautiful this person was, and wanted to learn more about the disease, and couldn't find pictures that just represented them as a human. It was just medical, like black bars over their eyes, and so he made it his life's mission now to highlight the beauty of different populations. He's worked with vitiligo patients, and he works with all sorts of different groups, and it's empowering, and it shows these beautiful people in different galleries and online. I'll add the link to the this chat, because it's really, really neat to see. And it does show that there's so many ways to define beauty, and I think that representation in media and in art and online is just so important, because these people are beautiful.
It really
Don't tell me
is.
what's beautiful.
It really is, and I think for me, I reached out, I think I've been doing this for like 10 years, and honestly, your organization was the only one that actually reached back. Like I had written letters to like Glamour, Latina Magazine, I had written letters to, I mean, any publication I could, any talk show that would allow you to like send, I sent all of this information from like 25 into 35, just trying to get the, like, this is what I'm dealing with. I know there's other people. And in all honesty, I never got to reach back. And that's okay, but because at that point I think people were either ready for it, and now there is a couple of models with it, which I think is beautiful. But for me, it's just the grassroots of how do I help a second grader who may have it.
You don't want to go too extreme, like, oh, a model is something that feels like it's just kind of,
it's still unattainable.
An example, like kind of over there that people can just watch, but not in your day to day.
Right.
You know, like someone who in your community, or a child that you know, or if you have a child that is starting to develop vitiligo, like what does that look like when to make them feel accepted and make them feel.
I think the online community is an amazing resource that you're starting. So
tell us a bit about.
So I have started a Facebook group just called Living with Vitiligo, and my goal is just to reach out to other people who have vitiligo, who maybe have family members that have vitiligo, just to get together and talk. I'm just going to I'm looking for a dermatologist who would like to just come out just to answer basic questions. This is what it is, these are do's and don'ts, because a lot of times that just kind of breaks down the stigma, and it just gives you basic information, because sun is not our friend, and some parents who have children with vitiligo either shelter them, or they don't know that the sun can hurt them as much as they can. It's more than just a sunburn. And that's kind of what I want to do. I just want to be able to say, like, there was never dolls that look like me. There was never books that look like me. And so for me, I just want to be able to gather the Austin community just to say, this is who I am. Second grade, third grade, 12th grade, college, you're going to get through it. I think people with vitiligo relate to people with vitiligo a lot easier, because I've been there, I've done that, I've been stared at, I've been made fun of. I know exactly what you're going through, because I went through it as well. And just being able to provide resources for parents, just to talk, just to be frustrated, just to say, this isn't fair. This isn't fair that my kid gets treated like this. How can I make it better?
That's why I found so mind-boggling that, there's, so many meme, like, Facebook groups and so many different ways that people connect on kind of just like you like a certain album or book, that to have a group that's not represented in Austin, at least. I know Houston has a big group as well, but in Austin is something, especially a city that kind of also prides themselves as trying, to be welcoming and trying to be like, we have all these different people. You can be who you want to be who you are. It's Austin. That there's a lot. It takes like one person. So that's why I wanted to reach out, because that is part of what Decibel does. Not just focusing on issues, but also if someone empowering people to kind of reach out and tell us like exactly why they're being affected or how they're being affected and like what can be done about it, or if you're doing something about it.
Trying.
So if there's anybody who wants to get in on this group or wants to kind of know more, they know someone who has vitiligo, you can message us at news@klru.org or on our Decibel ATX Facebook page. Just shoot us a message.
Put it in the comments.
Put in the comments any way you want to reach out to us. And we'll get you in touch and we'll get all those names together. And then when Stephanie's ready to kind of like make things go live, make things happen, we'll share it too.
I'm going to join.
Can I join?
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
So we'll join. There's already 3 people in this group already. So yes, message us. And if it's not any other issue, I mean, we do this twice a year, Decibel Listens.
Well, every
year.
Throughout the year.
Twice. We do it exclusively, but any time of the year, just like this was like, last summer that Stephanie messaged me?
Yep.
So yes, if I've had people message me and just want to have coffee and talk about things.
She's amazing to talk to. I love her.
I do love coffee and I love smoking. So it's perfect. If you have an issue or something that you need to tell us about, something that's affected, something that should be known, message us, reach out. I'm totally happy to have coffee with you. Coffee and me, I'll travel for it. If you have a good idea. But either way, I want to know what you think. We want to know what you think. And we want to tell your story. That's what Decibel's about. And that's what we're doing here today. And Stephanie has been really awesome. You've been keeping up with me. You've been like
I have.
checking in sometimes, just like, hey, we trying to get it going. And it's it was like a year later.
About a year later,
A year later that we finally met, and now we're sitting here talking to everyone in this room and you online. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you both for helping us.
And thank you,
for
Sarah,
sharing your story.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And because, the funny thing is, it was Small World, rather, that you talked to me about it, and I was like, oh, crazy. I was like, what? And the more I dug, that, there is a need.
And I think that's, if there's one takeaway, is maybe you don't have vitiligo, but everybody's got something.
Yeah. Everybody's got
And
something.
that's just
What makes
people
you.
like
That's what makes you
everybody's
unique.
unique in some way.
Exactly.
So you never know what that way is, but it's all special.
Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you very
today.
much. I
sharing.
really appreciate.
We'll let everyone know when that page goes live, so be sure to message us if you want to be a part of it. And as Judy says, make it a great day. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.